Hey guys, thanks for joining us back here on Vegas Realty Check, your local Las Vegas real estate news show. I'm your host, Trish Williams.
And I'm your host, Tiana Carroll, and welcome to the show.
Thank you guys. And if you are watching our show and you're following us, please make sure to take a moment, like, comment, subscribe, give us some feedback, send us listener questions. We answer them here on the show. And as we're wrapping up this year, I just want to send out a very big moment of gratitude to everybody because I really appreciate all the followers and all the people that have been following us and supporting us. So thank you so much for that. That's been great.
I definitely agree with that. I appreciate everybody's support. We love the interaction. We like when people get to ask us questions and we get to help. So thanks for just being there and supporting us, guys.
Yep, and I love watching those downloads. That number get higher every week.
Yeah,
that is pretty awesome.
It's great, not only on the podcast version, but we also have this that goes onto the YouTube channel. So if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to us there as well. Across all platforms, make sure you join us.
Yeah, almost anywhere out there that streams anything, you can find us.
Yeah, we're easy to find. Matter of fact, we give our contact information at the end of every show, so not hard to find us.
Yes. So this week we've got our numbers reporting, and just a recap of what we talked about last week because this was just so eye-opening. I know we're here, and I know we talk about the numbers every week, but it was 1,400 single-family sales last month. Wow. That's such a low number.
That is such a low number, and I know that we were all kind of like, oh, that's it. And we usually don't report solds, right? We're all about what our inventory is, if there's been price reductions, but to go ahead and take a glimpse into that and to watch how that dropped a lot of it. I was going to say a little bit, but a lot of it. Then, yeah, it was something to take into consideration. So it's been making me watch those numbers a bit more throughout December, which typically is our slowest time anyway. So, you know. And then we've had, well, what are our numbers? And then we'll talk about what's been going on this week.
Yeah, and before we say that, I just want to say in every negotiation, every offer I sent, every seller I talked to, if I'm working with a buyer, I'm like 1,400 closed units last month. Let's not mess around.
Right. Well, exactly. Right? Exactly. Because that's where we're at now. If you're looking to really make real estate moves, whether you're buying or selling, it is a very, very serious market right now.
Very, very eye-opening number. When we're used to 3,000, 4,000, we're usually in the 3s and 4s
for our closed sales
units.
Yeah. So we're half of that. So half of the amount of sales. But we do dip down typically in December, like I mentioned. Well, November to December, a little bit of a dip, but not like that.
Yeah.
Yay!
More than normal. I was looking at historical charts yesterday, and November always has a big drop.
Yep.
Always has a big. I usually a pretty. It shows the lines, and it's like woo, choo, always a big drop. Even in the good
I like
years.
your sound effects.
It's when's it going to drop right now?
Yeah.
But every year, even in the good years, November had a drop.
Right.
A slight uptick every December. I think as we get close to the end of the year, wrap things up, people are like, all right, let's do this.
Right.
So,
well, there's a lot of benefits to buying and selling in this season, and I think that's what our entire topic this week is going to be, is talking about, is it insane to shop and sell in the holidays, or is it genius? So there are some pros and cons we're going to cover, but before we do that, let's talk about our
these
numbers.
Yes.
Okay.
So our single-family units that are on the market right now are 6,460.
And a little bit lower than last month. I mean, last week.
Yeah.
This week has been an entire month in itself, let me tell you.
Yeah. It sure has.
So, but a little bit of a dip because we were like at 65. Now we're at 6,400.
Yeah, that number's dropping. The inventory number, and I was in a sales meeting yesterday. That was another thing that they talked about is we're seeing this inventory number drop. And we're wondering if this is a new trend too. So inventory and sales dropping, that could be the perfect storm. So
right. Well, that's one of the things that I think I've been mentioning on the show is that we're seeing an uptick of business for spring, but that's more on the buyer side, people putting themselves in a position to buy, not so much on the seller side.
Yeah.
That there's no reason for people to sell just to get cash anymore. They have to have a real life reason. They're getting married, they're moving, there's a job transfer, somebody in the family passed away, there's a baby coming, you know, upsize or downsize, whatever they have to do in their life, that they're going to be the serious people in the market in the beginning of 23, I believe. I don't think we're just going to have a flood of spring inventory.
Yeah. And also, even though the inventory does look like it's shrinking, it's still like just every time when someone says something about inventory going down or it looks like we're trending to an inventory shortage again, I do remind myself that we're still in holiday season and we do see that every year.
Yep.
Even this year, though everything's very different, it's still a trend that we usually see. So I'm not going to jump to conclusions on that yet till we get into the first quarter and see how that looks.
So you do a lot of listings, and so are people coming to you during this month like they have in the past to prepare for the next market? Like
They're preparing for January.
Okay.
I have had a lot of listing appointments this month.
Okay,
I have
good.
not taken many listings this month. Most people are getting, they're getting preparations, they're getting ready, they're getting their home ready to go on the market in January. So I'm going to be putting out a lot of new listings in January. But that's...
Good, we could use them. We're at 6,400 on the market. We need them.
Yeah,
Bring us your listings.
Yeah, but a lot of people and it's the same reasons in which we're going to get into all these things, but same thing. They don't want to sell during the holidays. They have their Christmas tree up. They have their presents out.
Hey,
and
stop giving away our show before we're done.
Yeah.
Hey, we're not there yet. Hold on,
We'll
slow
get
your
into
roll,
that.
lady.
We'll get into that. Before we get into that,
Okay.
let's get into price decreases, 865. There's still people dropping those prices to get the home moving. Some people want to get this home sale wrapped up before the end of the year.
Yeah, well, there's benefits to getting it sold before the end of the year and to buying before the end of the year. So
yeah, and
That makes
we're going to
sense.
get into those too, and then under contract, we have 586 under contract this week and 434 sold. With those numbers, we're still trending towards the same amount of closed units that we seen last month.
yeah, if we just
That's
had
not gonna
500 a
change
week,
much.
we'd still be chilling in that 2,000 close.
Yeah, and that's 500 is actually a little good.
Right. We like that.
Yeah, it's 500 more than what we seen last month. But that is that's also interest rates did dip a little bit.
Mortgage rates.
Mortgage rates dipped a
Interest
little
mark,
bit
yeah.
over the last month, but now the Fed has raised the rate again, so I'm sure that's going to pour over into mortgages soon.
Yeah, and all of that happened yesterday, right? The Fed met, and the Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell came out and had his little pre-made speech to tell us that the Fed's goal is to have inflation head consecutively down to 2%. We're over 7% right now, and so he wants that to come way down before he starts pumping the brakes on raising the interest rate. And that's Federal Reserve interest rate. That's where people who give you money, like your car loans, your mortgage, your credit cards, they get their money from at that rate. So it's going to trickle down into other facets of finance.
Absolutely.
From there. So they did make a slower increase on the interest rate, right? Because they were doing 0.75% and just hiking it up. Yesterday's interest rate for the Fed was 0.5%. There was talk that when they meet beginning February, end of March, that they're going to continue to increase those interest rates because they want to, again, get our inflation down to about 2%. And so when they do that, they're going to have to keep raising the interest rates to tighten up our market, but that is going at a slower pace. Because historically, 0.75% each hike was just unheard of. We hadn't seen anything like that before.
Yeah, it's been crazy. Instead of 4-letter words, I'll take those all day long. But that 3-letter word, Fed, I do not like.
It's like she's got a picture of Jerome Powell on her dartboard.
Yeah. Seriously, that is. Ugh.
Well, I mean, I don't want to say it could have been avoidable. It could have been handled different. Like in 21, it's like, oh, inflation is transitory. It'll work itself out. It's going to be fine. And then come into the mid-22, they're like, okay, just kidding. We have to pull the reins and slow it down. And here we are.
Anything that is excessive and drastic like this is never a good idea. I'm sorry. It's too much. there's too much effect. Like, there's too much effects. You're
it's
doing,
extreme. I get it.
Yeah, it's never a good idea. I think that they should have slowly did it over time.
Well, they could have back in 21 when they were talking that it was transitory. They could have started to slow their roll then, and they just sort of like, oh, it's all going to work out in the wash. It's going to be fine, and didn't do anything. And then they got into 22, and it was a frenzy. And they're like, okay, now we got to do it. And they just drastically slammed on the brakes. They're like 0.75 interest rate hike, 0.75 interest rate hike, again and again and again, and it went from practically no interest rate from the reserve, like they had it down at one point during the pandemic to 0% interest, and now they've got it up like over 7%. So it happened fast, and because of our inflation, they're trying to rein it in.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I was optimistic at least that it was a 0.5% interest rate hike yesterday instead of another 7.5, and they're already talking that they'd like to slow it down into 0.25% in each hike. So I like that. That's optimistic. Not saying that that's the way it's going to go. They could shock us all and come in at the beginning of February and be like 0.75 again. That worked out well.
Yeah, well, I've been hearing that they're going to be rolling out some more homebuyer programs.
I heard that too,
next year,
which
so
I love.
That's good. They rolled out one recently, and that one, it's good, but the income limits are pretty low, so it's you're right on the verge of qualifying to purchase.
So
in general,
is it the under 99,000 per household?
40,000.
Under 40,000 for a household.
Yeah, and it's a $15,000 grant, which is great.
Yes, we love a grant.
Yeah, it's a great program, but the income requirements are pretty tight. Pretty tight.
Yeah, especially if it's the whole. Is it individual? 40 an individual, or is it household?
There's a chart. There's a chart. So of how many per household, but the numbers are still fairly low, and I think the max amount of purchase price is $400,000. So don't quote me on that. I have to look at the chart. But I did look at it, and I was like, well, it's going to be hard to qualify for that in general. With that. So that it's good. They're starting with something.
Yeah, and I love all those programs and grants because they do benefit people. I mean, they've got their catch, right? It's not free money. Nothing's ever free. They have higher interest rates or loan origination fees or fees that your lender will take from that. But yeah, they're there.
They've had some really good ones in the past, though. They've had some that had like rate buy-down incentives where the rate's bought down if you qualified for the program. I'm hoping to see some of those again this year.
Yeah, well, it's always the factor where there's a will, there's a way that you can work through and help people, and these programs are always a tool that we can use to help people. So they don't work out for everybody, but for the ones that they do, and even things like NACA and stuff, it's a tedious little program, but getting through it can help a lot of people.
Oh, absolutely.
So
absolutely. So selling during the holidays, guys. That is something that you hear a lot about. People talk about that quite often. Yep. Is it the right time? Should I sell during the holidays? Should I wait to sell till after the holidays are over? And that's what we're going to go into, selling and buying, because buyers have the same concerns. Should I be buying right now during Christmas?
Right.
Yeah. So
right. Yeah, because there's a lot of factors, and there's a lot of pros and cons to it, right? It could be genius. It could be insanity. You just have to know what's right for you and figure it out. But I'm always a big fan of any kind of real estate during the holidays or anything, because like I said, I like serious. Are we doing this? Let's do this. Okay, if you're in, I'm in. I can't want this sale more than you do.
So I'm going to tell you one pro that I thought of just last night of buying a home during the holidays.
Okay.
We pulled into a community, beautiful community in Seven Hills, and all the lights. The community, the HOA does the Christmas lights, so the whole community's lit up, and you pull in, and it's just like, whoa.
Like magic and beautiful.
It's magical and beautiful. The homes are all decorated as we're driving down the street. It's dark at 5 o'clock, so everything was all lit up and just beautiful, and the buyers were like, wow, I love this place. that is definitely a pro when you're out shopping during the holidays. You get to see that what happens around here during holiday season.
Yeah, so one of the properties that I bought was, I did my walkthrough on Halloween, and it was right before dusk, and they had closed off the street, and it was a block party, and I got to see the families out, and people had tables set up, and I was like, oh, this is so cute. I'm so glad that they're a community,
Yeah.
you know, instead of not knowing your neighbors or not being a part of something, and it definitely would reflect that in the holiday season.
Right.
And I had just about the same experience. I wasn't with a buyer or a seller. I was doing pop buys for past clients, dropping off cookies, catching up for the holidays. It's one of the things I like about this time of year. It slows down enough that I'm able to reconnect with family and friends and clients and what have you. And so when I turned down Pam Street, I was like, every house on her side of the street was completely decorated. There were lights everywhere, and at least 2/3 of the houses on the other side were done. And at the very end, there was one house that didn't have any Christmas lights, and they had a for sale sign, and they just had like a strand of tinsel wrapping the post, and then they had like a Santa Claus that looked like he was climbing the for sale sign, and then
cute.
a strand of lights on the for sale sign, which was good because it lit up the sign. There were no lights or anything on the house because it was vacant, but I thought that was so cute and so clever.
Yeah, that they actually brought that into the for sale sign.
Yeah. Especially it was like a vacant house. I'm sure it was the agent who did it, and it was genius because it was like a solar LED Christmas light strand, but it kept the light so you could read the number.
Great idea.
Yeah, great idea, realtor. So if you've got posts out there that are for sale, light them up.
Yeah.
Now's the
And
time
let's
of
get
year
some
to
of
do
those
it.
LED lights.
Right?
Yeah, so yes, that is, it's the experience. And so I think as a seller, you should capitalize on that.
Right, and it's not only outside, but it's inside. If you're owner occupied and you're selling at this time of year, you also have the ability to have that warm family feeling, right? You can walk into a beautiful Hanukkah party, or you can walk into this Christmas, or, you know, Samhain, like whatever you're celebrating, and it's, you know, smelling of fresh baked goods, and it feels homey and comfortable, and you can really see yourself being in that space.
Well, that's something that the rest of the year we don't see what's the experience in this home going to be during the holidays, you know,
Right.
and that is it. It's a great feeling. It's a great feeling. It hits you emotionally when you walk in a home and the Christmas tree's up. They have the garland over everything. I had a seller one time that during the winter they would turn on the fireplace and they would make sure that the home always smelled like good and sweet aromas of
yum.
those holiday baked good aromas, and you know, it was just it becomes an experience, and that experience is. There's something to be said for that, not just in real estate, but like even Nike. Even the Nike store does that. You know, they have a certain aroma or scent that goes through that they put out to make that experience welcoming.
Yeah, so like an old school realtor trick was for open houses, having either a candle that smelled like cookies or actually baking cookies in the oven to have that homey aroma, because subconsciously you're like, oh, it smells good. I like it.
Absolutely.
Let's
I had a
stay.
homeowner. I just have to tell the story one time. She said, she's like, I baked cookies because that, you know, everybody said the baked cookies for the you know, before people came, and she's like, and I burnt them, so the whole house smells like burnt cookies.
You're like, okay, so we've defeated that.
So the candle might be a better idea.
No, candle or the plugins, they come in all the holiday scents, sugar cookies and winter fir and, you know.
Snickerdoodles.
Yum, yeah, which they're all poison. I don't use any of those candles or air fresheners or anything because it's so full of chemical, but that's my own personal opinion.
They do have natural ones out there. So
They do, and those are the ones that I do get when I do have something like that. So on the flip side of that, having that nice homey feeling or whatever, when you're buying during the holidays and you get to go in and experience that. On the flip side, selling and keeping your house show ready during the holidays
that can be a struggle.
is challenging.
Yeah.
It is challenging. You've got packages arriving, you're decorating, you're baking, your kitchen's a mess. Like,
oh yeah, my living room right now is a disaster because I have like unwrapped presents and things all everywhere and wrapping papers spread out all across the floor and just it's yeah. So keeping it always, when you get that showing request that says, hey, we're going to be there in 30 minutes. I know you asked us for 2 hours, but we're coming right now and we don't want to turn those showings down. So, it's quickly wrapping everything up and getting it show ready. So that can be a bit of a struggle. Some people don't want that. Some people don't want just their presents and everything like out there for everybody to see during holiday season. Some people put out a lot of family photos and a lot of personal things.
Right. And that would be the downfall for being in this market to sell.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's definitely pros and cons. But
there is.
The pros, the buyers that are shopping during this season are very motivated. There's not really looky-loo buyers during Christmas. Buyers like to go out and look at homes. They like to kind of window shop and see homes. And there's people out there that they could do that on the weekends for the heck of it. Like they're okay with that, just looking and seeing.
Yeah, professional open house goers. They click on Zillow all the time just so they can window shop. There are people out there who just love that.
There are people. That's why realtors are always getting pre-approval letters and getting things because they're like, hey, I like you, but I don't know if I want to spend every weekend with you if you're never going to buy anything. So
and there needs to be light at the end of the tunnel because this is my business. I get that.
And it's time. Time is money. But but there's also those buyers or those people that are just like to shop or like to looky-loo. During holiday season, they're shopping for presents. They're spending their time in the malls and other places. They're not really out home shopping because everybody gets real busy with the holiday events and everything like that.
Right. It's a very hectic time of year and B, a very expensive time of year.
Absolutely.
So there's tons of unforeseen, or not, I guess it's not unforeseen, you expect them, but you're buying more things to host parties, alcohol and food. You're buying gifts and everything that goes along with that, whether it's the wrapping or the shipping. So it becomes expensive just to be in this season. And then if you're purchasing a home at this time or that becomes very expensive because you have all these out-of-pocket expenses that are going to be happening during your holiday expenses as well, because you have your home inspection and you have your appraisal, you have your down payment, you have your closing costs. So it's a very expensive thing to purchase a home, but to do it in an expensive season, that's a downfall. If you're not prepared for that, it's a lot.
Yeah. And then the benefit of it, on the other hand, is you can probably work a very good deal during this season.
Very good deal. If sellers are selling during the holiday, they are motivated. And the buyers who are buying during the holiday, they're motivated. And this is a great time to ask for concessions, to get some sort of rate buy downs, to not have a lot of competition in the marketplace. People are falling out because they're traveling, they have guests over, they're going to do their holiday thing. And now, this time of year, people are not taking a couple days off, they're taking a week off.
Yeah.
So, they don't want to be bothered during their off time with the hassle of buying or selling a house.
Yeah, and going into January, historically, when you look at the sales charts for previous years, going back in history, February is always a huge uptick. February is a lot of activity, a lot of increase in activity comes around in February. So when you're buying, getting in there before that first quarter uptick is definitely a good thing to do. It's the smart thing to do. A little inconveniences of shopping during the holidays, but there's benefit to it. It usually has reward.
Benefits. Yeah, even just getting that sale closed before the end of the year, you get to use all of that write-off and everything come April for your taxes.
Yeah.
So that's a benefit for shopping at the end of the year. Say, let's go from end of October to end of December in this market, this holiday market. Taxes are something that really are beneficial to those buyers.
And on the other hand, people that are selling, there are people out there that need to do a real estate purchase to offset some of their taxes or do something. And I don't know why they wait till last minute.
Listen, I'm a procrastinator sometimes myself. Like, I get it.
I know.
Life
I'm
gets
always
crazy.
surprised. I'm like, they're like, oh, I have to make this purchase before the end of the year, and I'm like, it's December 15th. Like, what are we doing?
Like, I hope you're either fully underwritten or this is going to be a cash transaction.
9 times out of 10, it is a cash transaction.
Totally.
I think almost every year I've gotten those last minute cash buyers. They're just like, hey, we got to close this thing before December 30th. And I'm like, okay, well, let's get at it, like, but that is, there's benefit there. And again, having those December listings, you definitely have a chance of getting those last minute December buyers. And I get it.
And cash buyers.
Yeah, cash buyers. And
Yeah.
I called my CPA yesterday, and I was laughing at myself because I'm like, oh, here I am last minute. But I was like, hey, let's meet to talk about what I'm expecting next year for taxes. If I need to do do anything before then, last couple days of the year.
Right, just a quick check-in. Hey, can I benefit from anything? What would those look like?
Yeah, I'm sure he gets those calls all the time. And I usually do this around November. Just this year's been kind of hectic, so I did wait last minute. So I get it, and no judgment out there.
Yeah, we all have those moments. Sometimes we're on top of our game, and sometimes we're a little behind the 8 ball. And either way, it's all going to work out fine. So one of the cons, though, if you are trying to do like a rush deal, even if you're a cash deal, one of the cons is all of the vendors that work in real estate are also experiencing a holiday and they're traveling or have guests, and they are harder to get a hold of. So if you're needing a home inspection or a title company or something to that effect, you have to take into consideration that it's going to be harder to have those vendors around to work with.
Absolutely, yep. And things just move a little slower. People are off.
Mm-hmm.
Their assistants take off. There's a lot of things just move a little slower. I know when we get to closings, I usually add a week onto the closing day when I make offers in December, just because I'm like, hey, there's holidays, and they're like, oh, there's only 2 days of holidays. Why do you have a whole extra week? Those 2 days stretch.
And that goes back to people taking time off. This isn't a long weekend. People are taking a week, a 10-day, 2 weeks off, and so their home inspections or appraisers or whatever aren't as readily available. There's fewer of them out doing work because they're experiencing their holiday time.
Yeah, but we can always make it work, so don't be discouraged.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, when you're serious, where there's a will, there's a way. We can make this happen for you. But to just assume that it's going to go smooth is probably not realistic this time of year. You have to give yourself a little extra time. You have to start preparing, like talk to your home inspectors and, have a variety of vendors. If 1 or 2 of them are gone, who's going to be your backup that's going to come in and do this, that's still going to do an adequate job?
Yep. And a lot of people that have had their home listed for, a couple months this year, and it's listed 3 or 4 months, it hasn't sold yet. And in their mind, they're thinking come first of the year, we're going to do some adjustments, we're going to do some changes, we're going to do something, to get this moving. So you're benefiting of getting in on that, working out a good deal for those people that would rather close out this year with that home off their plate.
Yeah, I love it because even with sellers, getting offers in the holiday season is a gift in itself. We're like, woo, we got an offer, and it feels good. They get excited. I can buy more! Yay, my favorite! Just hemorrhaging gift fund.
Get your kids that car they wanted.
I'm like, wow, that's an extravagant gift. I got my kids shorts. No, I'm just kidding.
A Barbie car. I was talking about the Barbie car.
Okay, cool. Sellers, when they do start getting offers or showings, they're like, oh, we have to show it this time. But if they're in the market and they're serious, if they get an offer at the holiday, it really feels like a gift.
I do. I agree with that. And I've had a couple sellers where like we had a rough couple months before the holidays in the past, and then that last minute December offer comes in and it's like, yes.
Yeah, no, it feels good.
Yeah.
It feels good. And if you can get that cash offer that is one of those last minute closings, it's like a whirlwind transaction that comes in at the end of the year. Bam, it's done. It feels amazing.
Christmas Eve, clear to close.
Yeah, and I've had them and they feel good. I love it.
Yeah, they are awesome.
I would like it clear to close this Christmas Eve. Hint, hint, hint.
Santa, let's put in our order here. Bring it, Santa baby.
That's funny.
Yeah, so buying and selling during the holidays is not bad. You have to take into consideration the little bit of downfalls that are there, but I think the reward is much higher, and I'm sure it sounds like you agree with that.
Yeah. I'm sure I've said it repeatedly over the years, and definitely on this show, that I love the holiday market because it is serious.
Yeah.
You don't, like, when you get into spring, yes, we have an uptick in business, but we do have all of those looky-loos and people who are maybe broaching the idea of, would I buy, could I sell, what's that look like? And there's a lot of iffy things, and they usually, I would say about a quarter of the action that I get in spring doesn't actually transition into spring business, but it's could be future business, right?
Yeah.
Like, next year or whatever, because they're just starting the process.
Speaking of that spring market, I know this is a little off topic here, but doesn't it drive you crazy? It drives me crazy when sellers are like, hey, let's, I want to sell during spring. And I'm like, okay, February. We need to be on there by March 1st.
Yeah.
Mid-February is better, but by March 1st is perfect if you want to get that spring, get that spring listing. And then, March comes around and it's like, oh, hold on. And then we're in July and I'm like, we missed it. We missed spring.
Yeah. Okay, so for me, in my real estate head, spring starts January 15th.
Okay.
If there are people that I have clients who are talking to me through the holiday season, they're like, we want to do spring, we want to do spring, we want to do spring. I always let them know, great, spring is going to be in a month. We're going to, January 15th, that's when we're going to start getting the house ready. That's when we're going to look at what the market's doing. That's when we're going to do everything. Because I want that house on the market by the first week of February.
Right.
Because that's when you're going to get spring going. Yeah. That's when all the action starts, especially in our valley. And come July, what always happens July 4th weekend?
Nothing.
Nothing
happens.
It stops.
It's like it gets hot. We hit triple digits. I don't know if it's the fireworks. I don't know what happens on 4th of July, but nothing happens.
Yeah, everybody's freaking out because summer's almost over. We've only got a month left. We got to get our last minute vacation in. The market changes every year, July 4th in this valley.
Yep, and that's why at listing appointments I will bring those little charts that just so it's every year. It really is predictable.
Yeah. So the charts don't lie, and year after year, July historically slows way down.
Yeah, and we forget that we're going into July. We get all busy. June is usually pretty chaotic, and we're just like,
April,
whoa.
May, June is like a roller coaster. We're not thinking it, and then all of a sudden July 1st hits, and you're like,
oh yeah, this happened again.
We're doing this. I better get, to work to make sure that July, August, September are still good. And then come September, I'm already thinking holiday because by mid-October, we go into Halloween, or I said Samhain for earlier. I didn't mean that. I meant the winter solstice. Samhain happens in Halloween. But anyway, so that whole thing starts to happen, and that's where really the holiday market, and you can see those on the graphs too. Like come October to December is its own animal.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we have told you what happens all year round.
Not just during this holiday, 4th of July holiday and Easter. We've got them all covered.
Yeah, most definitely. So we are, we're going to be wrapping up this year with our saying goodbye, our memorials from 2022.
The memorial for 22.
So that episode is coming up here in a couple weeks. So we're probably going to do it I think it's December 30th is a Thursday, but I have to look at a calendar again, 29th, 30th, somewhere around there.
Yeah, the end of the month, last show of the year.
Yeah, last show of the year. So look forward to that.
Yeah, that's always a fun show. I like that one.
Find what we're dropping and
saying goodbye to.
Saying goodbye to.
And when we say goodbye to stuff, we get to welcome in new things. So it'll be very exciting to see what happens next year. And if you want to know what's going on, whether you're on YouTube or on the podcast, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to us. So that way you'll know everything that's happening in the Vegas Valley real estate market.
And send us your listener questions so we can talk about them here on the show. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for your support. And
how do they get a hold of you, girl?
You can call me at 702-308-2878.
Yeah, you can't go away without giving your contact information, especially since I said you can always get a hold of us at the beginning of the show.
Figure it out.
Just Google my name, Tiana Carroll. You'll find me.
You will find me.
All right. So, or I'll just give you my number. If you want to call me, if you have questions, give me a call. Send me a text, 702-379-9948.
All right. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next week on Vegas Realty Check.
Have a great week. Bye, guys.
Bye.